This is KKSU-LD, covering Manhattan, Riley County, and the Flint Hills, broadcasting in high definition from Kansas State University. You're watching Channel 8 News.
We want to welcome you today to our Principles of Journalism class. It's a great day today as we're going to have an interesting discussion today. In our Principles of Journalism class, we talk a lot about the First Amendment and about the importance of journalism to a free society and to democracy. In fact, Thomas Jefferson once said, were I to have to choose between a free government and no press or a free press and no government, I would choose the latter. He said we need the press as much as or more than we need the actual government to make sure that our people in a democratic society can do their duty. Sometimes, though, that runs afoul of what's going on. Our guest today has been an example of what happens when those things run afoul. The Marion County Record has been published since 1869, Eric just told me, so about as old as K-State. And on August 11th, had a rather rude knock at the door, so to speak, and with a warrant from a police chief and a judge that ended up being not as legal as they had hoped it would be. There was a search, there was a seizure. All that has now been returned. And joining us today to talk about that, as well as the First Amendment and papers in all across the United States, particularly small town papers, is Eric Meyer, the owner, publisher, editor of the Marion County Record. Everyone, please, a round of applause for Eric.
Thanks.
So thank you for coming.
Thank you.
We certainly appreciate it. And, it's interesting, the circumstances that bring us together, and we've seen the national story. Why don't you give us a little bit of a rundown of, from your perspective, of the events of August 11th and kind of what has happened since?
It's a long story that actually starts well before August 11th, but I'll keep it simple. Really, there was a coordinated raid on 3 locations, and one of the forgotten ones was not a journalist, but a politician in town who was raided, and all of the law enforcement officers in the county were involved in this raid. So if you wanted to commit another crime somewhere, you could have done it.
That was the time.
It was sort of a coordinated raid that everyone came in at the same time using encrypted radio. I mean, we felt like we were the Medellin drug cartel or something here. They came in, they made us wait for a long time for close to 3 hours. They threw the staff out of the newspaper office. They did not throw my mother out of her house, which they would have had a lot of trouble if they tried. And then they also made Vice Mayor Ruth Herbel wait as well. What had happened was we'd gotten a document about a week earlier, and we actually told the police we got it, that we thought that was explaining how a local restaurateur didn't really have a valid license because of an old DUI. And it turned out we did some checking to make sure that it was a valid document because we didn't want to get Dan Rathered and pulled away and found that we were based off something that was a fake document. So we tracked down that it was a legit document, and then decided afterward that this was just shooting back and forth in a divorce battle. That her estranged husband thought he wanted all the cars because she didn't really have a valid driver's license and hadn't for 15 years. And anyway, we said we aren't interested in this story, so we're not using it. The vice mayor had gotten from the same source the same document, and it turned out that the restaurateur was applying for a liquor license, and she wanted to have the police investigate it. So it turns out on the Friday before, a week before the raid, both the vice mayor and we notified the police that we had come into possession of this document, and that in our case, we weren't going to do anything about it. In her case, she was turning it over to the police. City administrator said, nah, we'll let the state worry about this. So it was dead as far as we could hear. That Monday.
So, but why did you report it to the authorities? What was that made you, I don't know, nervous about it, or at least suspect?
For one thing, we thought we were getting set up. But second, there was an allegation. The person who gave it to us had a lot of connections with law enforcement, and she'd originally said, I got this because of my connections. Well, that would have been improper if she'd taken something out of a police station. And also she made an allegation that this woman had been driving for 14 years and the police were fully aware of it and would do nothing about it. So I forwarded it along to the police, and turns out she was right. We've got anonymous sources on the police department who said that they had known about it and weren't arresting this woman because, among other things, well, they used the B word to describe her. But she also ran a Facebook site that was devoted to crime and oftentimes would criticize law enforcement or praise law enforcement. So she had some role in this. This is a very long and complicated story. She's a very excitable person, sort of a Facebook troll. And somewhere along the line, the police notified her of all this. She became angry. She went to a city council meeting. She had a fit about it. This goes back even the week before that, when she had us thrown out of a meeting with Congressman LaTurner at her restaurant. And so we'd run a story about that. That's how we got the material from the source. The source was mad about that, about her throwing us out, and so on and so forth. Anyway, she accused us at the city council meeting of breaking into her computer, stealing her identity, committing all these crimes. She was told by the police, she didn't go to the police. The police went to her and said, "You've been the victim of a crime." She got mad about it. She went to the city council. She told a whole bunch of stories. I talked to her afterward. She said, "Oh, I know you didn't steal it. I know who it came from. It came from my ex-husband, who gave it to a woman by the name of Pam Mogg, who actually was our source." She later told us that it was okay to tell her that. So she knew, but she created a fuss about it and said she was trying to get the vice mayor because she didn't like her. Well, we thought everything had died down. We reported all this. And Friday of that week, at about 10 till 11, we got this coordinated raid at my mother's house. I was staying with my 98-year-old mother. And actually, I was getting ready to fix her dinner. She had Meals on Wheels coming. I usually popped it in the microwave for her. And the newspaper office and the vice mayor's office. They came in and immediately took my cell phone, my laptop, guarded the desktop in the house so that nobody could use it. I wanted to call our lawyer, and I said, "His number's on my phone." I mean, I also have it on the computer. And I said, "Well, I've also got it posted on the wall down in my office." Well, they wouldn't let us in the office. So I had to go to a neighbor of the newspaper and say, "Can I look up on your iPad what the phone number of Max Couch is?" He's the media lawyer for the State Press Association. And then I asked him to use his phone, found out it was an old flip phone. And but it worked. I called Max, and Max got everything started at that point. But they took out of our office not only the computer that the reporter had used to verify the document we received, but our file server, my computer, the computer of another reporter who, in fact, hadn't even been there that week that they were doing it. Her father had died the week earlier, and she was sick and on vacation and some other things. And then they took all the stuff from my mother's house. They took the stuff from Ruth Herbel, the vice mayor's house, and took them away. And it took them a long time to do it. Immediately, and this was, one of the testaments to the value of calling Max, and he called the State Press Association. They called the Kansas Reflector. The Kansas Reflector was able to publish, which we weren't, and they got something out. And by an hour into this thing, it was hitting full stream. It then was a lengthy battle to figure out what had happened. We immediately, for those of you who don't know how to cover news, a search warrant is issued after a probable cause affidavit. They have to say that there's a reason why they're going to search that. And the probable cause affidavit is filed with the court, and then the court issues a search warrant. We went over to the court and asked for the probable cause affidavit. They said it didn't exist.
Which would make it illegal.
Yeah, it eventually existed 3 days later. They filed it 3 days later. And it was kind of odd because the probable cause affidavit's supposed to be notarized. It wasn't notarized. The judge had notarized it. And judges are allowed to do that. They're attorneys. They can notarize something, but
a little out of their purvey normally.
It's a little different.
To notarize and serve the same warrant is
normally the county attorney, the prosecutor, a district attorney in some places, county attorney in others, will approve this in advance. We are still unclear whether the county attorney approved this in advance or not. County attorney says he didn't see it until 3 days later. The police chief says he approved it in advance. County attorney said when he saw it 3 days later, he immediately knew it was wrong and we shouldn't have done it. But it took him 2 more days after that before he actually announced that. And that was after he got a call from the KBI. So
Kansas Bureau of Investigation for those.
yeah, the
from out of state.
KBI, we immediately contacted an attorney and it took a little while to do that because various attorneys we tried to reach had conflicts and other things, but we found a really good one in Kansas City, Bernie Rhodes. And Bernie immediately contacted Mativi, the director of the KBI, who I believe was on vacation and I believe cut his vacation short to come back to the office and had all of his people come in and look at the case this was on Monday that he contacted him. On Tuesday. He did that. He also issued orders, basically can't really order, but he encouraged the law enforcement officers to leave all this stuff in a locker and don't look at it. And we are led to believe that that actually happened. And then he was going to announce on Wednesday what was going to happen. And on Wednesday, that's when mysteriously the county attorney suddenly decided that the search warrant, we really never should have had it in the first place. We're going to abandon it and we're going to return all the property. And the deal was, and this only makes difference to people in the business, we were supposed to get the announcement of that first, and then they would announce it from KBI headquarters in Topeka. And the county attorney was supposed to hand deliver it to us. He never did.
Let's talk about the temperature of the country, of kind of the area on how the media is viewed and what kind of relationships we're seeing, and how, as someone who's been running the newspaper, you've been running that newspaper how long?
I've only been running it. I'm kind of weird because I normally was you.
Right.
I spent 26 years teaching journalism at the University of Illinois after a career as a working journalist for about 20 years at the Milwaukee Journal. So this is my retirement gig. This is my retirement hobby. I don't even take a salary at this newspaper. Mm-hmm. This is unprecedented. I mean, we've never seen this happen. The last time it happened was a newsroom raid, I believe, was in the 1980s at a student newspaper, the Stanford Daily. Oh, yeah. And they changed the federal law at that time after that because they lost their court case and said it was okay to search a newsroom. But there was a federal law put in after that that said that instead of search warrants, it's preferred that you subpoena the newspaper if you think they've got something, which allows you to have a hearing rather than having the police just go rifle through everything that's on everybody's desk. And you should see all the stuff they rifled through. Mm-hmm. We're just getting back the photos that they took. They were allowed to photograph basically everything they saw. And they photographed my bank statement, my personal bank statement. Nice. Why? It was sitting on my mother's, next to my mother's computer. And it's one of the things my mother was objecting to in some video that I think some of you have seen and we've got here today. Yeah. But the response has been phenomenal. Our press run before this was 4,000 copies. We've received more than 5,000 subscription orders since then.
Wow. Now, did you have the front page here after?
I do have the front.
And so all of this happened. You were able to get a paper out the very next week.
Yeah. Without the first thing I set off to do was we grabbed some old computers we junked, some old Windows XP computers.
XP. Good stuff.
And
that's older than most of the folks in this room. You know that, right?
Made a temporary server out of it so that we could share that. We didn't have, this is our front page.
All right, here we go.
We didn't have our nameplate.
Oh, wow. So here, let's put it up. We'll show the folks at home. Oh, gosh, we've got it. And it's reversed. Oh, well, you'll have to look at that reversed. I'm sorry, folks. As you can see, yes. So there you go.
So we didn't have anything. We didn't have any of our logs. We didn't know what ads were supposed to be in the paper. We actually forgot a half-page ad in that paper.
You can do a make good. You'll be all right.
Yeah, and it the next week.
That's fantastic. Well, we do have some video, as you said, from. I mean, these are just your basic closed circuit, your closed circuit TVs, and
yeah, these are security cams.
Security cams. Let's go ahead, Colleen. Let's see. Yeah, so we're gonna show you this one here. Start with the top one and that one right there. So tell us a little bit about this. Is here.
This is part of our news. you can maximize it over at the right.
The cryptic little key, so I'm guessing that's the password.
That's the police chief.
Oh, man.
That's his only officer.
The one who remembered his glasses.
Some have
No,
quit.
I mean,
Have they really? Have we seen an attrition there?
Yeah.
I just,
Before.
I was pretty sure passwords were on the list.
Deb was gone at the time. They're taking her computer away. Our people had been thrown out at that point, so that they had to go back in another. Well, they were sitting in the parking lot. It was 100 and some odd degrees that day. But they come around, they do this. We've also got them another one viewing, reading the rights to a reporter that's brought back.
Yeah, Eric's was password protected, Jack.
Go ahead and jump forward a little bit, Colleen, there, and we'll.
That's a deputy sheriff who came as well.
That is. You ready to go?
Taking pictures of everything.
If they know something bad on here, I would break the window and take it out.
Yeah. All right, I'll pull over in front.
I'll talk shit behind the Jude's back. I'm not doing it for the face. Come on, now that's ready. Eric's is ready. This one's ready. Yep. Like unplug and ready. Okay.
Force Guard General.
Flash drive. You going with it?
That's our file server, and they took it. They also disabled our network. They took at my mother's house her computer router. I have no idea why they wanted the router, but they're photographing everything and trying to figure out how to unplug it, and taking stuff away. That just goes on.
Let's go to the interior of the house.
Yeah, go to the other video if you want.
Colleen, if you don't mind. Thank you. Colleen
This was-
Lind, our
this was
acting
now
director,
at my
running.
mother's house.
June
and
jockey?
This was after she'd been, the cops had been standing there. Two of them had been standing there for 2 hours before the rest of them arrived. They arrived. This is my 98-year-old mother at the left in the walker.
Right? Yes.
Yeah, go ahead and roll.
She was trying to call me.
Don't you touch any of that stuff.
Ma'am.
This is my house.
You're wasting your breath.
Ma'am.
Get out of here.
And you asshole.
We'll be out of here.
Get them out of here. They're here.
That's my cell phone ringing that's in police custody.
Your mother loved you. You love your mother. You're an asshole. Police chief. You're the chief. Oh, God. Get out of my house. You're pet patrol. Get out. Stand outside. You can stand outside that door and still see in it. I don't want you in my house. I don't want you. You do not take that. What?
That's a business class router, has no.
What?
Leave a message after the tone.
Is there another one downstairs, another computer?
Thank you.
We never went down there, and he stayed up here the whole time.
Well, that was yeah. What's he doing over there going through the papers?
How many computers
For
do you
my
have?
bank statement.
I'm not going to tell you. Get out of my way.
It's all right.
I want to see what they're doing.
Well, they're working.
Whacking him with the walker. Love it.
What,
You can go on through if you want.
what are you doing? Those are personal papers.
Man, those aren't papers, they're electronic devices, which is what the judge said that we're supposed to take. Okay?
You people.
Anyway, the sad part of this is that after this raid, she was very disconsolate. She would not eat. She would not sleep. She finally went to bed at about 7 a.m. the following Saturday. She woke up at around 1 o'clock, and I said, "Well, do you want some breakfast?" And she said, "I don't know. I'm not feeling very well. I'm not sure that I can," and died in the middle of a sentence. So, you know, there's still people who care about the rule of law and following proper things. I do not know why the Marion police chief has not been suspended. You know, suspending someone with pay, which is also called vacation,
Yeah.
is not a punishment. It's designed to reassure the public that someone isn't doing something improper or that we're going to investigate it. But the mayor has decided that this is what he's doing. Honestly, you really want to go back, and if she's been reading our paper, she knows what we're talking about here. This is a mayor who routinely intensely berates the vice mayor If you look at old videos, you would think that you're watching Joe McCarthy. Did you or did you not say this, that, and it goes on by hour and hour. This is a tradition in Marion that another person from Peabody, who's a former mayor of Marion, the Marion City Council has long been misogynistic, and there's a lot of things that go on in this that we're trying to address, but it takes time. And this is maybe my advantage of having lived in Andrew's world here, where things in universities take a lot of time to change, and we just have to be patient. Eventually, this stuff comes around, but it is God's work. I mean, it is a noble thing that people go. Now, for those of you out there whose parents are saying, "Oh my God, don't go into journalism.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to get paid crap and you're going to have terrible working hours and all the rest of that," and everything they've said is true. But you're going to feel good about it. You're going to feel like you did something that didn't involve, finagling to get some corporation some more money somewhere. You actually did something for the good of society. And that's what drives the people who work in this field. It's like a mission. It's like people who become teachers or social workers or other things. It is a mission. If you feel that that's the mission for you, go for it. There's still a chance to do this. There are still lots of newspapers like ours around one of them that comes to mind right away in Kansas is the Iowa Register. Really good newspaper. They beat us out for the sweepstakes award this year in our category. And I know all of them and all the rest of that. And there's a bunch of others. There's also some really bad ones, but that's true of anything.
Well, we're about out of time. I just Eric, want to thank you and tell you that the A.Q. Miller School certainly supports everything you're doing.
Appreciate
and that. We support journalism in all its forms, and particularly the First Amendment. Thank you for standing tall where some may crumble. And we certainly appreciate you coming and talking to all these budding journalists here today. Let's give a round of applause to Eric here.